Shabbat Shalom. Glad to be with all of you and to be able to put this week now ending behind us, to begin to peer into Shabbat, 25 hours ahead, the weekend, the week that is upcoming, to gather together on Shabbat, but also to take note of the date. Today, June 19, Juneteenth, a day that is a day of celebration in our country. It has been described as an important day in Black history and in American history, and it's more than just a celebration of emancipation. Juneteenth was when the last slaves found out 2 years after slavery had actually ended. It has turned into a holiday of liberation. But it is also an opportunity, indeed an obligation, for us to look a bit deeper about what this day represents and what it calls on us to understand and to determine and to resolve to make real. And so we are grateful that this Shabbat on Juneteenth, we gather Road of Shalom with friends from Tree of Life. We'll make introductions in just a moment, and that we are also joined this evening, special guest, Reverend Richard Freeman, who is from Resurrection Baptist Church in Braddock and is in the chaplaincy program at Children's Hospital, which he heads, and we'll hear more from him a little bit later. I want to go around, though, and let everyone who be part of this service wish each other and wish one another Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It's lovely to be with everybody this evening. Lovely to be with you out there in the internet world. I invite you to gather up your candles and your Kiddush cups and wine and your challah, your bread, for the end of the service, where we will do all of those things together, near and far, as a community.
Thank you, Molly. Don?
Shabbat Shalom, Don McGahan. Good to be with you this evening. I'll wait until we've made the rounds, and then we'll begin here with Song with Me.
Olivia?
Shabbat Shalom and a liberatory Juneteenth.
Rabbi Myers and then Reverend Freeman.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Rabbi Jeffrey Myers from Tree of Life. This is my son Aaron on keyboard. We welcome all who are worshiping with us and wish everyone the warmth and joy that Shabbat brings.
Shabbat Shalom. I am grateful to be with you. I am Richard Freeman of the Resurrection Church in Braddock, Pennsylvania. I hope all the peace that is resident in this day be yours. And as we celebrate Juneteenth, the liberation of us all should be coming soon, is our hope.
Thank you. And we continue with song as we greet Shabbat and prepare to greet one another.
In our Siddur, we're on page 10 with Hine Matov, and how good and pleasant it is for all of us to be here dwelling and singing together. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim 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 shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov, hine Matov, yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. Hine Matov, hine Matov, yadadai, yadadai, yadadai. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad.
continue with Rabbi Myers and song.
We continue now with L'chun Ranana, found on page 12. L'chun Ranana, L'chun Ranana, L'chun Ranana, L'chun Ranana, L'chun
From Psalm 96, Shir Ladonai, Shir Chadash, sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. From Psalm 99, it's on page 17 in the prayer book. Sometimes we hear this when you guys can come in front of me so that people can see your pretty faces. We sing this one sometimes when we are marching around with the Torah.
We move on now to Psalm 29, Mizmor LeDavid, found on pages 18 and 19. Some have the custom of rising for it. If you're able to do that and wish to join us for that, you're most warmly welcome to do so. A newer melody, this one's composed by Rick Recht. Mizmor LeDavid, Mizmor LeDavid, Mizmor We move on now to this magnificent, glorious poem written in the mid-16th century, Lecha Dodi. We symbolize the Shabbat as a bride entering our, whether it's our prayer space, our home, wherever we might be. And so as we reach the concluding stanza, the custom is rise in the space you are, if it's your home, and face the entrance doorway. If it's the synagogue, the entrance to the synagogue, and symbolically welcome the warmth and the joy of Shabbat into your midst. Ay, 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 lecha dodi. Ay, 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 likrat kala. Ay, 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 penei Shabbat. Ay, 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 nekabela. Shalor v'sachor v'kipor echad. Ish mi'anu el ha'miuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. V'shemul tiferet v'le'ila. Ay, 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 lecha dodi. Ay, 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 likrat kala. גורי גורי שתמירי יון אדוני עלייך נגלה איי 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 לקדותי איי 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 לקראת חלה איי 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 בני שבת איי 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 נקבלה
לא תבושי ולא תקלני, אל תשכחי ומה תתני, אל יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר תילה, איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת חלה, איי 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 פני שבת, איי 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 לקבלה.
Hayırlım şeysa sayın Akıman tefalayı Yasis alayı Elohai Kitos matan Atan akala Ay 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 lekadodi Ay 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 lekadala Ay 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 pene şabat Ay 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 Kabbalat
ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, את אדוני תריצי, אל יאיש פן ארצי, ונשמחה ונגילה, איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת חלה, איי 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 פני שבת, איי 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 נקבלה.
Oy bishalom mater Allah Simcha Uletzola Tohem monei am sekula Oi kala Ay 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 lekadodi Ay 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 likrat Allah Ay 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 bene Shabbat Ay 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 nekabela Ay 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 lekadodi Ay 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 likrat Allah Ay 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 bene Shabbat Ay 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 nekabela
Shabbat Shalom once more. Were we in our sanctuary at the conclusion of Lachadodi? We like to give people an opportunity to turn to one another, to greet each other, to share their greetings. We have a chat function in the YouTube that you're watching on, and we invite you to give a shout out to one another. I received a really nice message this morning from someone very excited. Aaron, so excited about being able to share herself and being able to gather together. And so I want to give a shout out to everyone who had planned to be here, has been here, been looking forward to that. I'm thinking of so many people. Dale wrote to me, Mary, Cindy, the neighbors. A shout out to Webster. If you'll greet each other and let everyone know how happy you are to be here and how much you're thinking of one another and what it means to be together. I know I'll be very grateful, and it'll touch everybody else as well. So with excitement in our thoughts and sharing with each other what it means to be together, we turn back now to our service. And Don, Sadi Katamar.
We're on page 22, and it is the indented portion of the text on the page. That was such an outstanding Lachadodi. Heard all of you here in Mars. So I'm going to let you roll with this one. So you be the voice to my accompaniment of the piano with Tzadikat Tamar.
We continue with the Chatzi Kaddish before the Baruch Hu. It's found on page 26. Yet Gadol v'yet Kadash Shemei Rava Yelma Divrat B'tei V'yamalech Malchutei B'chaychon V'yomechon U'v'chayei V'chol Beit Yisrael Agala U'v'zman Kariv V'melo Amen Yehesh Me'elav Amevhala Le'alam Le'al Me'al Maiha Yitparach Yitparach V'yishtabach V'yitpar V'yitplamam V'yitnaseh V'yithadal V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Kudisha Bri'u Le'ela Mikor Bekata V'shirata Tosh Bechata V'nefemata Da'amiran Delava V'imelo Amen. As we've now concluded the Kabbalat Shabbat, the welcoming of the Sabbath service, we move on now to the formal evening service itself. That begins with the call to worship, known as the Baruch Hu. It's found on page 28. If you're able to rise, please do so. We customarily face the eastern wall of our homes. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. You may be seated.
We continue with Ma'ariv Aravim and the setting by Noam Katz, which is Roll into Dark. The text is in the middle of page 30. Borei yom v'layla kolel or mitnei choshech v'choshech mitnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla kolel or mitnei choshech kolel or mitnei choshech v'choshech mitnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla kolel or mitnei choshech kolel or mitnei choshech v'choshech mitnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
We continue now with Ahavat Olam, found on page 32. Ahavat Olam Yisrael Amachah Torah Mitzvot Chukim Mishpatim Otanu Limadeta Alekei Adonai Elohim בחוקתך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, טובה הם נגד יומם ולילה. ואהבתך תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמן.
Between our sharing via Hafta and our celebrating Mi Chamocha, the next prayer that we'll share together, we reflect on redemption. Mi Chamocha, which Molly and family will share with us in just a few moments, is taken from a text in the Torah that are the words that were spontaneously shared by Moses and the Israelites and then Miriam and the women as they celebrated what it meant to come through the sea and begin their overland journey towards Sinai and the land of promise on the horizon. As we imagine redemption on this Juneteenth, let me share with you words that appeared this week in the Jewish Forward. 9 Jews of color spoke about what this day means to them. I share with you the words of Michael W. Twitty. He's a chef and food historian, a former Hebrew school teacher who studies how enslaved people shaped food culture in the American South. He's currently working on a second book called Kosher Soul, that can be found on Twitter, the same handle, @KosherSoul. Says he, Juneteenth this year is a whole new ballgame. So often we talk about liberation, but it's fascinating that this year we've received a true Passover and a true Juneteenth. On Passover, we were forced to stay inside and watched as a plague swirled around us. On Juneteenth this year, we're celebrating an emancipation from the enslavement of silence. Silence about law enforcement overreach. Silence about disparities between Black America and white America. Silence about the two realities, 401 years after 1619. Not just emancipation from silence, but emancipation from apathy. This allows us to talk about those disparities and to really reprogram ourselves and what our imagination of liberation looks like. This year, may we make our imaginings of liberation and what redemption looks like real in our lives and our world.
Mi Chamocha
Turning the page ahead one to page 44, we continue with V'shamru. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Beni uven b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam berit olam.
On to a major section of the evening service. In Hebrew, we call it the Amidah. In English, literally the standing prayer. It's an opportunity not merely for the words of the prayer book, but for the innermost prayers of our heart as well. It can be found on pages 46 through 60. If you're able to rise, I ask you to do so once again. And normally we face the eastern wall of our homes.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'yimaru. Amen.
We come now where we pause in the midst of our service and turn our thoughts to those in need of healing, hope, and peace. We may this week have in mind ourselves, members of our family, our wider community, certainly our nation entire, in need of a great deal of healing, indeed a great deal of introspection and personal work. We lift up the names of those for whom we have concern and love and of whom we are aware. We share their names. You might do so in the chat. I'll share names of our community at Word of Shalom and invite Ray Myers to do the same. And then we'll share the words of Misha Berach. We think now of Nancy Berkowitz and Millard Balloon, Richard Breen and Olivia Burton, Larry Friedman, Naum Kaplan, Liba Heka Batroza, Lee Kramer, Lev Podorovsky, Maria Pukshansky, Zev Ben Simcha, and Elchanan Ben Chaya.
And we at Tree of Life seek healing for Sandra Danovitz, Terry Griffin, Yosef Ben Paula, Lezele Kohen Ben Bela, Shoshana Bat Miriam, Yosef Ben Perel, Brina Bat Dapka, Shimshana Kohen Ben Taiba Rivka, Hachazan Shefer Ben Miriam, Miriam Bat Bela, Eliezer Ben Miriam, Aryeh Ben Devora, Vincent Irado, Edward Ringler, Yossel Ben Rachel, Yitzhak Ben Sarah, Meir Ben Tova, Bonnie Harkins, Moshe Ruvain Ben Herschel, Esther Bakraina Elka, Hachazan Levia Bat Rachel, Michael Schuster, Elliot Dribbin, Peggy Smith Jackson, and all those who suffer from COVID-19.
We add as well those suffering from anxiety and addiction, loneliness and loss, isolation, infection, fear, and grief. For all who struggle and are in pain. Misha Berach.
Which is on page 253 in the prayer book.
We come now in our service to our Dvar Torah, our guest sermon, and it's my privilege to introduce to you once more Reverend Richard Freeman. Richard has been a friend of mine since I arrived in Pittsburgh. His is an insistent voice of conscience. His is a persistent call to realize our potential, both as individuals and as a beloved community. To make real God's vision for humanity, to make real our founder's vision of ours as a more perfect union, to be a part of creating the idealized society, the community, the sense of the divine in our midst that we are commanded to do. Reverend Freeman is the manager of pastoral care at Children's Hospital, the pastor to the Resurrection Church in Braddock, and he was for more than 6 years the president of PIN, Pittsburgh Interfaith Impact Network. His is a voice that we need to hear. Richard, Reverend Freeman, please. You're muted. Welcome to the world of Zoom services.
I'll go on mute. Am I better now? Good. I love technology when it works. I am grateful to be with you tonight to share some reflections, some thoughts on Juneteenth, June 19th, 2020. I am the guy that typically, I'm a biblicist. I like the Word of God. And so I believe the Word of God has something to say to us in times such as these. I'd like to turn your attention to the Torah, the book of Genesis, chapter 4. I want to read a couple of passages that I think for some it may go, why are we talking this tonight? But give me a minute, and I think we can work with it to show the gravity of where we are in 2020. In Genesis chapter 4, I'm reading from the New International Version of the Sacred Writ. It says, then the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? The Lord said, what? And then he said, I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. If I could just hold your attention this evening, I just want to rally around the idea, more than liberal, reorienting for this movement. Eternal God, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight. This is our prayer that we pray in all that is holy. Amen. This particular text is an interesting juxtaposition of a very cataclysmic event. As our sacred writing is structured in chapter 3, we hear the fall narrative. We hear where sin made its drastic entry into the world. And in the beginning of chapter 4, something happens, something very wonderful. You see, after the devastation of Genesis chapter 3, Adam and Eve, they began to build a family. They began, dare I say, a reconstruction. And they had children. The first two named in our sacred writings are Cain and Abel. The scripture goes on in early chapter 4 to illuminate that God had commanded an offering be made. And well, it appears, as according to the Holy Writ, that Cain didn't do as God had required, but Abel did. It says that Cain bought of the fruit of the ground, while Abel bought a firstling. God told him, hey, Cain, if you want to be received, do as I've said. He didn't like it, got upset. He talked his brother into going into the forest together, and, well, he killed his brother. Think about that a minute. Many of us make the erroneous assumption that Cain and Abel were Jews. The Jewish nation was not even formulated until Abram. So this predates Judaism. This is a story of humanity. This is a story where humans acted against humans in an inhumane way. And so we get to that, and we get to verses 9 and 10, and God asks Cain, "Where's your brother?" Cain says, "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" And God, in the sovereignty of who God is, in the omniscience of who God is, God says, "What have you done? Your brother's blood cries from the ground." So why are we talking about this on Juneteenth? I submit that where we are in our nation at this time, we have transcended the Reconstruction period, and now we are on a downward slope. What are you doing? From 1863 to 1877, our nation had what was called the Reconstruction period. And in that period, the African-American community had great growth, and that we were free, we were allowed to participate. Yes, Juneteenth is real in that it was almost 2.5 years before people in Texas knew that they were already set free. And yet here we are. For 13 years, we were allowed to participate as free men and free women in the great experience called America. And around 1877, something happened. The Cain of America took hold. The Cain of America began to believe that the Abels of America, who were now allowed to participate, should not, they should die. And we have had that journey ever since. So where are we? My conservative brothers and sisters, and I do use that word intentionally, they are my brothers and sisters, but my conservative brothers tend to ask the question, well, I'll give what I want. My liberal brothers and sisters tend to say, I will give what I can. I suggest both of those answers are inadequate for such a time as this. I would suggest that we have grown beyond the need for weak liberalism. It is now a time where we must transcend and not ask what I'll give what I want, nor do we ask I'll give what I can. But the more important question that's driven by the concept of love is I will give what is needed. During the COVID-19 pandemic, our nation spent close to $7 trillion with a T dollars in a matter of 14 weeks. The economy was in trouble, and so we spent the money. I will save for another conversation whether that was the right expenditure of resources, but it did demonstrate something to me. It demonstrated when the nation sees a need, it will marshal its resources. Yet I, as a Black man in this country, and I as a liberal, and many of my liberal brothers and sisters see the need in our communities, and yet they are not so mobilized. They're not encouraged to meet the need. When our education systems are falling apart, what do we say? When healthcare is denied to people who look like me, what do we say? When rights are thwarted to those who have sexual orientations that are different than ours, what do we say? I would suggest to any and all of us that if we would do me a big favor, I would suggest that you would go in your home or go in your wallet. I do remember a time when we used to carry pictures in our wallet. But if you don't have a wallet, maybe it's in your cell phone right now. I would suggest that you go to your phone or somewhere where you have a picture of someone dear that you love. I would ask that you get to that picture. Please take a moment, get to that picture. And when you get to that picture, I have a real question. Do you see Rich Freeman? You see, the challenge we have is that in my secret writings, it is said that we should love our neighbor as ourselves. You see, I'm the father of 3 and a grandfather now of 4, and I can tell you my heart jumps with joy every time I see my children and my grandchildren, and there is absolutely nothing I wouldn't do for my kids nor my grandkids. Where they are in need, I will, to the best of my ability, rise to the occasion. The question is, though, do you see your kids in my face? Do you see your kids in the faces of my grandchildren? Do you see your kids, your spouse, your mom, your dad, your niece, your nephew in the face of my kids? This is more than simply being a liberal. It's not just giving what I can. When I work around my grandchildren, when my grandchildren and my children are in need, I don't give what I can, I give what they need. Our challenge today is, are we going to transcend the tendency just to give what we can? I submit to you, what we can is no longer enough. I submit that the challenges that we have around police reform can no longer be just writing a nice little letter saying, I'm upset. We need to mobilize ourselves and transcend the legislative agenda. We need to write legislation that responds to the consequences of evil in the world. I believe that we have a responsibility to make this world a better place. Diana Ross sang that song many years ago, but Rabbi Tafan said it better. It is not your responsibility to finish the work to perfecting the world, but you are not free to desist from it either. Our work is to roll up our sleeves and do what is needed to transcend just doing what we can. I submit love will empower us to do greater than we ever thought. This movement, this moment requires that love takes a front seat. It demands that love takes the helm. It demands that love drives this car. It demands that love moves us forward. If not love, then nothing will happen. God asked of Cain, what have you done? Yes, that story was posited in the context of knowing that Cain had done something negative. But I suggest the question is still as pregnant today for all of us. What have you done? What have you done to lift the burden of children not being educated? What have you done to lift the burden of kids who are hungry? What have you done to lift the burden of those who do not have access to healthcare? What have you done in an environment where people that look like me make 70 cents on the dollar of folk who don't look like me? What have you done? Yes, I know it sounds a little pushy, and you know, it's time to be pushed a little bit. I'm demanded to be pushed a little bit. I've got to go beyond my comfort zone. I've got to move beyond just what can I do, but I've got to go and meet the need. And I suggest on this Shabbat that we go and make a difference to do what is needful. When I look in the mirror, it is not lost on my sight that George Floyd could have been my kid. It's not lost on my sight that Ahmaud Arbery could have been my kid. It's not lost on my sight that Breonna Taylor could have been my kid. So the question that demands an answer from me, and I ask the same of you, what have you done, Richard? What have you done to mitigate the possibilities No, I'm not talking Pollyannish thought that we're going to eradicate all of this in the world, but I do believe if we, the people of God, will raise up our energies, we can transform this world into a better oasis that will feed and nourish the souls of all humanity. What have you done? I close with a very simple understanding. Every wave in the sea is unique, but their work is towards the same objective. I encourage us to roll up our sleeves and get busy, because love demands that we work together to make the change happen that we want. I believe people of goodwill can make it happen. Will you join me? And when God asks the question, what have you done? I believe you can answer in the affirmative. Yes, God, I've committed myself to the task of making our world a better place. Amen and amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Reverend. Continue now with our service with Aleinu. Molly teaches us that Aleinu translates as it's upon us, right? It's upon each and every one of us and all of us collectively. Together we pray.
And so appropriate to say the words of Aleinu after hearing the words of Reverend Freeman. We're on page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום להשיבותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We continue now with our Kaddish. Right, Myers?
This evening, we in Rodef Shalom and Tree of Life remember the members of our congregations who passed away previously. But before we share both of our lists, we also lovingly remember a list that, alas, is much too long. The Mother Emmanuel 9, Antoine Rose II, those whose names we recognize most recently, George Young, Ahmad Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and Rashard Brooks. Those whom we do not know, a list that has grown too immense for far too long. We recognize the importance of Juneteenth and mourn all the African Americans who have suffered and died as slaves, and the suffering that continues unabated in the African American community. This past week at Tree of Life, we've observed the following Yortzeiten: Florence Harlech, Ruth Karpus Stein, Lillian Sipley, Goldie Graff, May Greenberger, Erwin Mullen, Paul Siegel, William Weiner, Israel Antika, Alfred Ash, Ruben Lindenberg, Tully Unger, Nell Berkowitz, Norman J. Fleischman, Sidney Shapiro, Batgirl Ash, Ann Siegel, Murray Haber, Joseph Schachter, Tilly Stalinsky, Abraham Tabachnik, Alex Venig, Leonard Malvin, Philip Enish, Morris Friedman, Ronald Gerson, Max Lillian, Francis Pinsky, Arthur M. Silverstein, Tilly Bales, and Sarah G. Epstein, Zichronam Livracha.
Road of Shalom, we remember Robert Buck Sr., Gladys Estelle Bronstein Burstein, Gary Goldhammer, Milt Eisner, Lucille Cohen Gordon, Susan H. Kantrowitz, Martin C. Sloan, Barry Saul Yar. We remember as well, for Yartzeit, Jerome Apt, Barbara Goodman Horowitz, Eugene J. Klein, Paul Bud Kosis, Estelle Crewman, Jack Crewman, Aaron Benjamin Lothar, Joan Obernauer, Ann Margolis Parker, Sam Prezant, Marion Reimer, Florence Schwartz, Abraham Sudalovsky, Iris Teplitz, and Marilyn Wiesenbaum. May all their memories be a blessing. We join together in the words of our ancient and hallowed Kaddish praise, page 249.
294.
294, I'm sorry, 294 in our prayer books. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Alma Divra Chirute, Amlich Malchute, B'chayecho Nuyomecho, B'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Ubizman Kari, V'imru,
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah, V'barach Leolam Almaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar V'yitalei V'yitalal, Shmei D'Kudsha, Leila min kol berchata v'shirata, ushbachata v'nechamata, ya'amiran bi'alma, v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'akol Yisrael, v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, v'akol Yisrael, v'imru.
Amen.
May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world. And together let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Hello, I'm Olivia Tucker. I'm going to share some announcements for Rodef Shalom this week. There is a Zoom Oneg right after we close our service. The link for that is in the description of the YouTube video. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll find that link so we can come together and we can talk about Reverend Freeman's sermon. We can talk about how our lives are going and our weeks and our Shabbos blessings. This week, our regular programs continue. Torah and Our Times, Monday at noon. The Sewing and Knitting Group on Tuesday morning at 11. And the Women of Rodef Shalom Sip and Schmooze before Shabbat on Friday at 4. The Music and Culture at Home this week, Thursday at 3. Our guest is Matthew Falcone, our own Matthew Falcone, who's going to be talking about the world of historic preservation. It's rather exciting. I think it's a rather exciting topic. And so that's Thursday at 3. Thursday at 7, the Women of Road of Shalom host a discussion of Just Mercy, Brian Stevenson's book about the injustice in our criminal justice system, especially the racist patterns. And the movie is available for free streaming online throughout this month, so there's still time. The link is in the Shalomogram. You can also read the book and come and discuss. We have a guest, Sean Alfonso Wells, a PhD from CMU's history department with a focus in race and development of race, especially in the Atlantic. So if you're not receiving the Shalomogram and you'd like to, please let me know, let us know, reach out, and we'll add you to the list. And I'd like to invite Rabbi Myers to share some announcements for Tree of Life this week.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Olivia, for hosting and running all of the technical aspects for this evening's service. Tomorrow morning, our 1-hour service, Shabbat in 60 at 10 a.m. on Zoom. If you go to our website, you'll see the instructions on how to join us. Our regular daily morning minyan, Monday to Friday, 7:30 a.m. on Zoom, and Sundays at 8 a.m. also on Zoom. There is no Sunday morning check-in, however, this coming Sunday. We're looking for members who would like to volunteer on Sunday, June 28th from 9 a.m. to noon at the Tree of Life building to help continue sorting and packing up books and papers. You will be physically distanced while working and you must wear a mask. We are limited to 25 people. To sign up, please fill out the Google Doc that was in this week's e-tree or call the synagogue office. If you would like to submit names for the High Holiday Book of Remembrance, please do so using the order form that was emailed to you this past week online through our website. Or if you'd like a hard copy, please call Alex at the office. I continue adult education classes this week, Tuesday evenings at 7 o'clock, deep dive into the Friday evening service. Thursday evenings, a crash course in Jewish history from 7 to 8:30. For information on either of these classes, again, visit our website or contact our office. If it's Tuesday, it must be the tree. Starting this Tuesday, June 23rd at 10 a.m., I'll be hosting our first weekly outdoor get-together in the Tree of Life parking lot on Wilkins Avenue. You're invited to come spend an hour with your friends, appropriately distanced. Please bring your own chair and a bottle of water. Note this is only weather permitting. If it's raining, we're not meeting. The next meeting of the Joyce Feinberg book group will be held via Zoom on Wednesday, June 24th. The Zoom link will be emailed to you after you RSVP. The book to be discussed is House of Glass, The Story and Secrets of a 20th Century Jewish Family by Hadley Freeman. Lastly, happy Father's Day to all the dads.
We do have one more announcement, which is that if you are looking to double dip with services tonight at Temple Sinai is Rabbi Jamie Gibson's celebratory final service. And we invite everyone who would like to stop by to check out Temple Sinai's service after ours. And now Rabbi Myers will lead us in Shalom Aleichem. Get your Kaddish cups ready.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharet, Malachei Elyon. Welcome to Shalom.
We'll conclude with candles, kiddush, and motzi. If you're not ready for candles yet, because it's still a little bit light out, that's also okay. If you don't say amen, you don't get credit for it.
She's right.
Very true.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We lift our cups. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'b'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Amen. L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Let me conclude our service with words of gratitude and appreciation to everyone now on our service, to Rabbi Myers, to Aaron Myers, to Molly, to Don, to Olivia, to Reverend Freeman, to Richard Freeman, who had to step away to be with family. My appreciation for his words and his inspiring call to us to do more than we want and more than we can, to do what we need. And in this way, to answer the divine call that we each realize our personal potential, and in so doing, to make our nation, our country, our community, our world entire, a reflection of our highest values and ideals. I invite you to reflect with me as we conclude our service with these words of benediction. What have we thought of this time of social isolation as we consider Shabbat, our most sacred of times? Cease from travel, cease from buying and selling. Give up just for now on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you have committed your life. Center down, and when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are at once terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny that now. And know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Do not reach out your hands, reach out your hearts. Reach out with your words. Reach out with all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. And promise this world your love, your best self, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.